I never understood Shadow growing up. No, not the fact that essentially he lost his whole family and that he was basically part Satan, but more so the fact I couldn't feel his pain. I couldn't understand what truly happened, why he felt like that. It was very much tell, don't show, in my opinion. Until...
And I just let bad thoughts linger for far too long. Don't you give me up, please don't give up on me. I belong with you, only.
I've felt moved by Shadow recently, whether it's multimedia, music, or the game itself. He's quickly surged as one of my favorite Sonic characters. This video will be broken down into sections. You'll see them on screen. I've had this video in mind for a while, and I want to get started and waste no more time. But
you probably like Sonic music. Whether you like the games or not, we all can agree the music is pretty great. Want to heighten your listening experience? Well, go check out Holland Sawani for synthwaves, covers, and my personal favorite, lo-fi beats. Go subscribe and support Holland Sawani now. We're going to start where this journey begins, in Sega's Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings. In the first episode, we were seeing Shadow's past, letting us back into his history again. Seeing Shadow and Maria's relationship, which is something we never really saw before, and it is hammered in that these two are like family members who love each other deeply. They simply want the best for one another. But little do they know what that means for their fates. Can I mark as well, Maria is so sweet. They capture her innocence very well. So when her illness takes over, this shit is not funny in my eyes. It's more like, oh my goodness. We see ML again giving a nice nod to Sonic Battle. Shadow's past traumas, his nightmares we will call them, start to haunt him. He sees Gerald's execution, Maria's death, once again, making it much more serious than something to laugh at. As we see in the clouds, she was shot through the heart that tragic day. And that's the gist of that episode, to be honest. Shadow stands at a tree as it comes back to present day. We recapture what Shadow was feeling at this moment in time, even though after Shadow 05, Shadow claims to put all that past stuff behind him, but from this episode, we can clearly see that isn't true. And he's very much still in thought about Maria, about Gerald, and it still clouds his train of thought, which is common for people when they haven't been able to move forward from a loss. I am not a doctor, and I don't want to make this video scientific in any way, shape, or form, but something that I did find that it was just so interesting, so I wanted to put it in this video. Shadow's remembrance of Maria and Gerald and, his nightmares coming back to haunt him, to me, remind me of the disorder called prolonged grief disorder. And the reason I bring that up is because Shadow has been grieving them for so long. They've been gone for, at this point in the game especially, over 50 years. Do keep in mind Shadow was in stasis for 50 years, and we don't know the exact time placement between Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Generations, but it is still interesting how it continues to come up over and over again, and it haunts him more than it's just a thought. Finding the Way is a lot less story heavy, and this is not necessarily a review of the episodes, so please accept these niche responses to parts of the episode as I try to focus on the story's theme. But in the beginning, we get another flashback and we see Maria and Shadow and a young Commander Towers. Shadow is battling with being known he's got the devil's DNA in his bloodstream, and Maria, once again, is there to comfort him, telling him what he does is what defines him. Just adding on to the relationship, it makes it more believable, and obviously, it's very sweet. The second half of this episode, while uneventful story-wise, is still great. So, here are some quick highlights. The animation, the CG, I love it. Omega is just, I love him. Team Dark's dynamic is great, and while Rouge's voice actor has gotten better, in my opinion, she just doesn't fit Rouge. When I think of Rouge, I think of like Sonic X type, like more of that direction. This just seems like a preppy, sassy, older woman, and I don't really like it. But it is much better than it was from her previous performances, so A+? To the Ark is the last episode, and sidetracking a little bit, I was hoping for a cool code or a secret message in the titles, but it's really nothing of substance. This episode is the heavy hitter of the three. While one is my favorite, this one is no slouch. Once again, story-wise is pretty uneventful. So, highlights again. A nice break-in mission montage is always fun. Again, the animation. It's a crime we don't have a show like this. Also cool, we got to see the chaos control power used, how it's going to be used in the game. We see Shadow very vengeful, about to hit the eject button, but in his eyes you can see bro does not like Gun or anybody in Gun uniform. Now the story picks back up as Gun robots are about to take down Shadow's ship, but Commander Towers calls them back to let Shadow do his thing, finding a new respect for him after saving the world, and both suffering the loss of the one they love in Maria. Shadow flies into space untouched, and the episode ends. Okay, obviously that's not all that happened. I didn't have a nice segue, so you guys know I'm skipping a crucial part, but let's talk about it separately. This song, man. I was feeling some kind of way about the episode before the song broke in, then the song broke me. This song is such a great song, man, both thematically and emotionally. I cannot wait for this to get released to the public. And YouTuber I Don't Know Princess has a very good breakdown on the song on her channel. I advise you all to go take a look at it after this. But I want to break it down to this theme, the theme of moving on. This song obviously is not about moving on, but it does help us break down the fact to this point, before we get to the end of Shadow Generations, Shadow is yet to move on, but this song really does strengthen the idea that he hasn't moved on from all the previous times he claims to have moved on. So let's get to it.
Can you hear me? Do you still hear my voice? It echoes back at me. Why did you make that choice?
Once again, we are in Shadow's POV for this song, and he's obviously conflicted. Not so much on the situation, but more so on why. Why did Maria kinda let the events play out like that? Instead of Shadow protecting her, his purpose of birth, she protected him. Which draws me back to what I said earlier. Their love for each other and just simply wanting to see one another happy is so pure and adds more to the fact Shadow lost such an amazing person.
It's around me, and your memories clouded by all things dark. I can feel you there.
Not much to say here. He's stuck on the past. Let's keep going.
You'll never leave me, I swear. It's just a nightmare that won't end. So I pretend.
Like I said, Shadow's trauma is like a never-ending nightmare up to this point. Please keep in mind, this man is in stasis for 50 years and then went on a whirlwind of adventures. To us, at least, he hasn't had a true moment or two to just settle and think or accept. Well, I mean, actually accept what happened.
Then I'll see you again, and then I'll save you from all the things I've held to. Now I'm without you.
Shadow blamed himself for not being able to save Maria, but if he got that chance one more time, he'd make it right. He'd save her no matter what that meant for the future. At least she'd be there. At least she'd be safe.
I can't forgive the wrongs I've done, so now you're gone forever. I remember how bright you shined on your own. Yeah, I remain alone.
And that concludes the song. Shadow feels alone, and technically, yeah, he is. And he's going back to where it all went down. Back on the space colony arc. So, I unfortunately did not get my hands on Gerald Robotnik's journal. I tried pre-ordering the game, physical copy, but I came into a weird predicament where it wouldn't come for like a good while after the game released, and that didn't sit right with me because, I don't know, it seems sketchy. You're pre-ordering the game, and for me, I did it like a month in advance. Why the heck would it come like a week after the game's release? It just seems weird. I don't believe I did it the right way, and that's on me, to be honest. So, I only have screenshots. Wait a moment. Aw, yeah, Levin, you slide dog. Helping me out, bro. Appreciate it. Longtime member and friend, Levin was able to send me Gerald Robotnik's journal from his pre-order because he did it the right way. Congratulations. So here are my notes from my reading of the entire thing, and one thing that clocks into the theme of what we are witnessing. Maria was on Earth to begin, and her parents weren't totally on board with her going into space, but allowed her granddad to take care of her there. I don't know why I thought she was like never on Earth, but that makes sense. Like, could be cool to see her parents like much older one day if that's possible. Like maybe they were young parents so they lived over 50 something years. Probably just a dream, but who knows? Could be a good way to tie Maria back into the story as well. Gerald loved Maria dearly. This family of Robotniks was close. Maria helped design Shadow's accessories. I can't, man. I love these guys so much. I love Shadow and Maria's dynamic, but I also love Gerald and Shadow's dynamic, and Gerald and Maria's. This is peak writing. I love it. Gerald felt the pressure of getting Maria a cure. Almost everyone believed that he could do it, so it was on for him. Maria's condition could limit her sight and make her dizzy on her worst days. The low gravity keeps it in remission. Gerald isn't totally evil. I mean, we kind of already knew this because there's not much of his past that really pointed to it outside of everything after the events on the Ark. Obviously, he was going to be a little insane. Maybe not that insane, but he still was going to be crazy. But by the looks of it, with his genius and the great power he had, he was only trying to help people. So when he saw Maria's name on the list, it was devastating. That's all I really want to say. I might make a review of his journal in the future. This is all I could see from the screenshots and blurbs. So yeah. With the context, the prologue, essentially, to Shadow's backstory, we're finally ready for the game and the theme of moving on. Shadow Generations' story is a great yet simple story to follow. After Shadow makes it to the Ark, the Time Eater sets back the clock, and Shadow is taken to white space. From here he meets Omega, goes through a few stages, believes to have seen Maria.
I need to stay focused. Deal with the problem at hand, not chase dreams.
The dialogue is so good for this, oh my gosh. And that remark pretty much solidifies that this stuff is fresh on Bro's mind. But he finds out it's true. Maria and Gerald are both back. He's in utter disbelief and confliction. The first thing he thinks about is being able to change their fate. Because, technically, is this not his chance? When you talk to Gerald in the hub world, he tells us two important things. Shadow must not tell them anything about their outcomes of their lives to mess with the time and space paradox, and kinda early in my opinion, he shoots down the idea of Shadow being able to save them. Even if we knew he couldn't or wasn't going to be able to at all, I still thought it was a fun idea to hold on to, but they knocked us down quick. I guess the game wants us to keep moving forward too, huh? Temporal anomaly is the key to us knowing it. In basic words, they're in a time where humans of present should not interfere. Throughout the game, Shadow is seen protecting Maria and Gerald, but also holding back. I often feel like he had something to say, but didn't. Mainly because he probably didn't want to give up too much. Let's skip towards the end of the game, and also where I believe Shadow's closure begins. His sole purpose after Maria's death was to fulfill her promise. In this scene, one, Shadow smiling both made me happy and broke me. Because he's telling her something she doesn't totally get yet. But for him, this is everything. He was able to live out her promise, yes, but to actually be able to tell her and see her face to face, and see her face become so proud of him, definitely is another. So he can definitely add that moment to his memories. He takes on Devil Doom, and like the shadow that casts from a light, he overtakes it and wins. And the time starts to go back to normal. Rouge comes in and tells him that she needs the emerald to go help Sonic now. Shadow gives it to her, but quickly remembers that his family is leaving. Gerald and Maria start to fade away as they return to their fates. Shadow has to hold inside what does happen to them and restrain from protecting them. I know Maria told him in the scene that it'll be okay and she'll always be in his heart, but he was absolutely determined to keep them in that time forever. He didn't say, I'll talk to Rouge, or I'll steal the emerald from Rouge, or I'll swap it out real quick. No, bro said he'd stop her. He'd stop someone who he knows cares about her to keep them in this moment forever. He could have even stopped for a little bit to try and convince them, but he didn't. He listened. Maria was right. Sonic quite literally needs that Chaos Emerald, and that she'd be with him in his heart. And I believe Shadow knows that. Also, it's crazy, Maria canonically knows Sonic. I am geeking right now, bro. With a heavy heart, Shadow lets them go. But this time, he didn't see them leave his life in tragic events. He got to see them go peacefully. And I think even that is going to play a better role in his conscience than what happened before. He skated off, and a tear flies back and hits Rouge as the hedgehog moves forward from his past nightmare. This part of the video is going to get a tad real, so if you've lost someone, I'm sure you can relate. And if you haven't, just listen up. Losing someone with a crazy amount of meaning to you hurts like hell, no matter the events. I've lost a lot of family over the last 5 years in numerous ways, some tragic and some not, thankfully. You have a choice with what you do, and when you do it, you get to this point like, what now? And that is a hard question. Do you just leave them in the past? Forget them? No. That person is still in your heart, and you may never go a day without thinking of them. And there's no wrong with that, but I promise it gets slightly easier every day as you feel the presence of their life, not physically there, but now mentally, emotionally, and you continue to live your life like they would have wanted. Shadow has become one of my favorite Sonic characters because of that hard-hitting question. How do you move forward? Well, there's no right answer. Our brains eventually adapt into something called neuroplasticity. It's essentially when you adapt to certain coping and supportive mechanisms. And that normally happens when you find meaning within yourself again. And for Shadow, I feel like he's found a new meaning within himself. To be the shadow that leads everyone into the light.
Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, subscribe. You've heard me yap for this long, so you might as well. Shadow Generations was a great game, by the way. It 100% earned that 9. What else? Oh yeah, also, for the next game that Shadow's going to be in, can we please move away from his past? I love Shadow's past as much as the next person, but I think it's time to focus more on his present and especially his future. I adore Maria and Gerald too, but Sonic is an ongoing franchise, and these characters gotta grow. If you guys like these essay-style videos, let me know. And this thumbnail today was made by Zexter. I love working with bro. The final product is always great when we collab on these. So yeah, now, with that being said, I love you guys. Seriously. This whole ride, especially with Shadow's story, got me really emotional, and I did cry. I love you guys. Wear your socks. Peace.